Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of the Wedding Biz. And before I introduce today's special guest, I have a message. The Wedding Biz has been my passion project for almost 3 years, and I have been so driven to support this industry any way I can and to help your growth in it by bringing you insights from our industry leaders. And the response has been just absolutely phenomenal. And so thank you so much for all you have done to continue to listen in, share, and support the show. And as the show has grown, so have the opportunities to bring you this great content. However, those opportunities have come at a financial cost to me. And so the best way for me to keep maximizing the potential of this show is to ask you to become a patron. Now, Patreon.com is a community-driven website where people can support creatives in delivering great content. And starting for as little as 75 cents per episode, basically a cup of coffee and a breakfast sandwich a month, you can now lend me support to not only help you stay engaged with our industry thought leaders, but also to expand on the kinds of content that the Wedding Biz delivers. And of course, you can contribute more if you'd like. So please go to theweddingbiz.com/Patreon today to sign up. And again, that's theweddingbiz.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. Patreon. That's theweddingbiz.com/Patreon. There's a link in the show notes too. And not only will you be supporting the show, but you'll also be securing your access to solid exclusive future content. So I really appreciate if you are able to do that. So if you missed last week's episode, it was part 2 with Norma Cohen of Norma Cohen Productions. She has planned numerous events at New York's most iconic spaces and Europe's most luxurious destinations. It was another great conversation with Norma. And so now today's very special guest is Bryan Rafanelli, who first appeared on the show in 2017, and then we re-released it September 3rd of 2018. There will be a link in the show notes. I highly recommend listening to it if you haven't yet. It's just amazing. Bryan is the go-to planner for some of the nation's most exclusive and high-profile events. Bryan has been named an innovator and event producer of the year by BizBash, one of Out Magazine's 100 most compelling people, a trendsetter of the year by Modern Bride, and more. His events have been highlighted in numerous major publications, and he's also appeared as an industry expert on regional and national television programs. So enjoy my conversation with Bryan Rafanelli. Well, hey, Bryan, this is quite an interesting circumstance for us to be recording under. You're home in Massachusetts?
Yeah, I'm at my beach house in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Oh, well, I hope you have a good view.
I have a beautiful view, actually. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Yes. Oh, man. So let me ask this. So when you first got the news about this and how serious this was going to be, I mean, I imagine you obviously had a lot of events about to come up. What was your initial reaction to the news?
Look, Andy, I think to full disclosure, even though my last name is Rafanelli, I'm half Irish. So why am I telling you that? Because I'm half dark Irish. Like the minute this started to unfold in February, my antenna was up. I was like, we need masks, we need gloves, we need Perel. I mean, that's what we had in our offices, both in New York and in Boston, because I was really thinking, what is going on here? And I know my operations people thought I was crazy at the time. But then in terms of business, it was, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we got to do the right thing and we got to get everybody home. And so that's what we did.
Yeah. How do you personally feel about it now? Before we get into business, how it's impacting business and suggestions you might have, how you're dealing with it, just how personally are you dealing with this? I mean, that everything has just come to a screeching halt.
I think it's such a beautiful question. And I could answer that in 100 different ways, because sometimes I feel like this is this extraordinary moment of like clearing your head, trying to decide what's important. Mm-hmm. But then the other side of my head is completely terrified.
Right.
Thinking about my 85-year-old mother in Florida, thinking about my family, my whole team, all our clients, our nonprofits. I mean, I get a little overwhelmed for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. Talking to some friends recently about this, for me, there's a certain, I guess in order to stay sane and calm and to be able to make, effective decisions and to make creative decisions. I do feel like there's a certain amount of healthy denial. It's almost a roller coaster of that, of being able to be in that zone. Because it is, it's interesting to me, not only us in the event industry, but the entire world, we are all in the exact same position. Will never in our lifetimes, I doubt, ever happen again where it's like this. It's all happening at the same time to us.
Right. Equally. Right. And that's really what's going on. Everybody's affected. Everybody's having challenges, big and small. Everybody's having to make, emotional decisions. It's completely uncharted territory.
How are you charting it for yourself and for your business? What has the impact? Maybe this sounds like a naive question, but I am curious specifically with you. How is it impacting your business? At what point did the events stop? I guess it was early March, mid-March, but you kind of had a sense that something like this was coming.
Yeah, we started, probably 3 weeks before the whole shutdown. We started to have conversations with our clients one by one because we had a very busy spring and a perfect combination of private events, including weddings and birthday parties and anniversaries, as well as nonprofit events with big spring galas that were coming out. So in real time, we were 10 weeks away, 8 weeks away. So of course we were talking to them almost every day. That's normal business. But then we did start to have conversations about the what ifs, because I'm a big plan B guy. And thinking about talking to you, I wanted to express that everybody should have a plan B, and plan A can be as beautiful and fantastical and fantasy-like as you want it to be. But then there has to be a plan B. And that's what we started to have conversations about. So our March, our April, our May, our June, our July, all moved or postponed, or since then, some have canceled.
But for the most part, postponements is what you're looking at.
Well, how do you define a postponement, Andy? If you say, I was supposed to get married in June of 2020, and now I'm getting married in June of 2021.
Yeah.
I guess that's a postponement, right? It's not a cancellation, but it's in another calendar year.
Yeah, in which you would have otherwise gotten business.
Right. And so, for the producers and designers and event planners and everybody who's listening who owns a small business, everybody has to understand it's easier said than done to pick up an entire project and move it into a calendar year, especially if it's 8 or 12 weeks away. And we probably could talk about that in depth, about what is that like to have something 99% done, and then you hit the pause button for 12 months. That's serious.
Well, let's get into that. Yeah, I think people would love to know how you're dealing with that.
Well, look, this is the way I'm dealing with it, especially in the wedding business. I'm saying, because my clients are teaching me a lot, right? They're going through all these sort of processes of this idea that they have to cancel their wedding that was supposed to be in 10 or 12 weeks. So emotionally, they were so excited. They were all already there. They had showers and bachelorettes and all of those amazing things that lead up to it. And then all of a sudden, it's not happening for a year. And I literally have been, talking to clients and saying, some of them called me in January for a June wedding. So that's a short engagement, right?
Yes.
So I said, you went from having a short engagement to having the longest engagement, right?
Right.
And everybody laughs, and it's true. But I'm trying to psychologically and emotionally have them understand that I understand that, right? I always get excited about short engagements, right? I think that sometimes anything over a year can be a little too long.
Yes.
So suddenly, if I told you that when you met with me in January for a June wedding, and now it's a year and a half away, you have to acknowledge that makes it different. So we have to think about things that we can do as a company for our clients. We're suggesting things to our brides and grooms' parents of what they might want to do for their kids, their friends, their bridal party, because, they want to stay engaged. Now, the good news is there is going to be an end to this. And once we open back up, life is going to take off like a rocket ship. And that's the interesting thing about all of a sudden it's going to be June 2021 and you're going to be getting married. And so I'm trying to balance those two thoughts with all my clients to say you have to think about both sides of this. And so all of a sudden you're going to get very busy and you're going to be taking care of your family. It's going to be a new normal. So you're going to be really focused on that. And then you'll refocus on your wedding.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about that side of it, the emotional, psychological side with your clients. It's not just the technical because look, you become their friend, you become their confidant, you become such an important person for them. So I think to hear you being talking calmly about this, but also being realistic, is only going to help them feel better overall.
Well, so Andy, think about this, and this is real life stuff, right? This is true things happening. So I talked to you 4 weeks ago about postponing your wedding. It probably took you 2 weeks to come to the conclusion that it was a smart thing to do for your family and friends, and that they weren't going to travel, and you wanted them to be safe. And so then you're like, okay, let's get on the phone and talk about next year. I've had brides say to me, Brian, I'm just not ready for that.
Right.
This is too hard for me right now. And even though, I was like, let's stay engaged, let's talk about, let's keep things moving. I realized that we couldn't necessarily suddenly be looking at flowers and invitations and for next year and have you have the same emotions. It was sad.
Yes.
So, the idea is take a breath and then let's, reschedule and look forward to the future when it feels right.
I wonder if there's some creative ways to even work with them and with their guests along the way, something new, some other way of being in touch and keeping the excitement and, because that is the tough thing, to put it off for so long.
Well, look, I think, my advice right now is to be, suddenly you have to be practical and say, yes, we're postponing our wedding. We have a new date. We've moved the date. We've rescheduled, whatever you want to say. And I think it's fair to be pretty straightforward about that. And there will be a time, probably in September or October, when we know more, when there's amazing testing and et cetera going on, that you can start to have fun again. I do think you want to be a little careful about being fun right now, and not that you can't be a little pithy or a little cute, but I think straightforward information is probably healthier. And then when we reemerge, then we can come up with all the amazing, taglines and logos and whatever we're going to do to get people excited and rearrange your wedding website, or, create a new save the date. I think there'll be time for that. Or I know there will be, but maybe not right now.
Yeah. Technically I have some questions about contracts. For deposits, I assume that you're basically keeping the deposit, right? For people who cancel, it's non-refundable. Is that what your policy is with dealing with those situations?
Well, look, for us, it's a case-by-case basis of really having honest conversations with our clients, with our suppliers, with the venues, of what is realistic, because this is unknown territory.
Right. We're making up the rules. We're making it up right now.
We completely the whole world is.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm advising on all sides, right? I mean, I love my suppliers. They're amazing. I want them to be protected, or I want them to be able to cover their costs so that they can put food on their table for their family. However, I do have conversations with them saying, look, all of us, you're not going to make a profit. So you can't assume you're going to make a profit this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. And so let's be fair to our clients, and our clients want to be fair to you. So if you've put time into the project, then yes, I hope the clients will consider covering our suppliers for that time, or the time that we, Rafanelli, have put into your project. That seems fair. And then we have to have an honest conversation about what is it going to take to turn this back on, and what is that going to cost? Because I think there are many, look, I've got great photographers out there who are look, as long as I have a date next year, we don't even need to have this. We don't have to have this conversation, right? A band, as long as I have the date,
mm-hmm.
Great. But if you don't have the date, that's when it's sticky, right? That's when you really have to be thoughtful and you have to negotiate. Just do, because that nobody. It's not like one side did this. One side canceled. That's not what happened here. The world canceled.
That's right. Well, there's also a sensitive issue here at hand too. Postponing dates to dates during which, as we said earlier, we would otherwise get new business. It's one thing to take some of these dates, because initially for me in the music business, some of the postponements for May, for example, were going into November. I know that who knows what's going to happen with that. But But it was no problem for my company to say, well, there's an open Saturday. We'll take it. Maybe we would have gotten it booked. That doesn't even matter right now. We'll go ahead and move it. But then you get into moving dates into, say, for example, May of 2021. Some people I'm hearing from the industry are considering some kind of an upcharge, very sensitive issue. And they say that they've tried this with some clients and one or two immediately said, no problem, I understand. I think they wanted a 30% upcharge. And then other clients are getting extremely upset. And so they're rethinking this whole idea. But what do you think of that concept? Do you think we just have to eat it? That's just part of our side of the service?
Yeah, I think that's a reality, right? So I have this great piece of art in my New York office that says, I believe in good people, right? So there are people who are going to be good. I have clients who've said to me, Bryan, let me double your signing deposit right now,
wow.
right? Because we're signing events for next year.
Yep.
But they're business people. They're most of my clients are very successful. They're entrepreneurs. They know what time it is. They want to help us out without me even asking. Extraordinary, right? Those are good people. Now, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you don't want to pay that deposit, but I think everybody has to think about each other in this circumstance. So the upcharge for a band, I completely get it. Like, those musicians need to eat. They can only play one gig. And so I say we'll be transparent with our clients about that. And then they're going to tell us whether or not they think they can do it, right?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? You're sort of in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really tricky spot. And I respect that. I highly respect it. Now, do I think you should ask? Of course.
You do. Okay. Yeah. So having a conversation is reasonable.
Of course you should. You should say, look, if you lay out a business plan to a business person, again, who's successful and understands business, it's not emotional, it's practical, it's black and white. Look, this is really what would help us out. And, I've been dealing with lots of music companies out there that are saying, look, we want to cover our musicians. We want to cover this. Okay, I'm going to make that case for you, and I'm going to bring it to our clients and see what they say. Mm. And by the way, it's not a yes or no answer.
Right, right.
It's a kind of when are we getting married? When is my daughter getting married? I want to know that the band's not available for that date. And if they're not, then we'll have this discussion. Mm. That seems fair. That's torturous for the music company, right? Or especially the photographers, the videographers. But think about it with the florists, right? They got nothing.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. What about organizationally with your own company? I don't recall how many employees you had going into this. What have you done with employees? Have you furloughed any? Have you had to let any go?
Yes. We initially just did a decrease in the work week. Then we furloughed half of our team. So I still have half my team. Because we have a really dynamic, very busy fall of 2020, by the way. Mm-hmm. And although we are moving, projects in real time, and or clients are just coming to us and deciding, even if the whole world comes back tomorrow, they're not sure it makes sense for their daughter to get married in September, so they're moving the date. Others are not. So we need to service our clients. Therefore, I need a team to do that. And so I have a team to do that. Now, look, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never lived through anything like this, but I have lived through 2008,
That's
9/11.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I have great financial advisors. Lots of the stuff that's out there, the PPP, the small business loans. I mean, those are things to really look at closely. If you can handle taking out the loans and borrowing against the future, which you have to look at really closely, that's something everybody should consider. But I've said to our clients, look, we're built to last. And we put money away for a rainy day, and it's raining like hell right now.
Right.
But we have done that. And now, look, there's no question that I've asked my employees to take pay cuts and, the whole furlough thing. And I mean, it's awful. However, we're trying to do the best we can. We're trying to be fair, and we want to come out on the other side and a vibrant, important, well-run company on the other side. And so that's what we're making that commitment to our clients that we're signing in 2021, right? So I have to take some risk to make sure I can deliver.
That's right. How are you keeping your team motivated through this? I just to preface that, I do feel like those of us who are owning our own companies, that there's a certain amount of responsibility there to obviously not get involved in their personal lives, but to still exhibit some leadership here and provide some kind of, like I say, some kind of direction. How are you dealing with that with your team?
for me, it's very straightforward. It's all about communication, having whether it's myself, my directors, producers, production managers, that everybody's communicating with each other in real time so that they understand what's going on. The folks that are working, at Rafanelli are probably working harder than they've ever worked before, because some of them are doing the work of two people, or we have lots of demands on us right now and lots of information going out. So to me, it's just all about communication, understanding, listening, and not expecting that. I can't expect that I have all the answers or that my team has all the answers. But let me tell you something, like our nonprofit clients, I mean, we're on the phones with them 6-7 times a day.
Wow.
Really talking different situations out. What's the best thing to do? Should we do virtual events? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I have never worked harder. And psychologically, I know that so much of my team has never worked harder because they have so much to think about all the time and so much responsibility to do the right thing.
So what is a typical day like for you now relative to what it was before this? You're saying you're working so much harder. I'm curious to know specifically what...
I have dove into every single project. So we have right now 23 projects still on the books for the fall, and then 23 for next year, right? That we moved out of the spring to next year. And then I'm having conversations about next year, right? That I normally would have. People are calling. They want to book weddings for next year, which is fantastic. Couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, that's great.
As well as, fundraisers and corporate events. So having said that, I feel an obligation to participate 150% of the time. So my day is basically one Zoom call after another. I mean, it's back to back to back to back to back. And that is... I think I have an office in New York, an office in Boston. We were, doing events around the world. I was on a plane sometimes 2-3 times a week. So for me to work virtually is not that hard.
Yes.
Now to work virtually at my kitchen table, looking out at the beach.
It's a little odd, isn't it?
With the dog,
yeah.
Right? And my husband, and cooking and cleaning. And look, everybody's got this. I get it.
Right.
But it's been an interesting dynamic for me. To really try to put everything in a place so that I don't end up vacuuming 6 times a day or, that's just who I am. So it's been an interesting thing to have that dynamic of running a house and thinking about my family and doing Zoom calls with my mother every single day.
That's right.
And both our families, and then our friends. I mean, so I have never talked to my family more.
Yes.
I've never talked to my friends more.
Right.
I've never talked to my staff more. And there's so much good in that.
There is.
Right? It's incredible.
God, Bryan, I'm getting in touch with people who I haven't spoken to in years.
Sure.
And it's beautiful. I mean, I'm feeling a little welled up right here because that is one of the benefits that's coming out of this, is this connection more frequent with people in a different way. It's really interesting. What do you feel that you've learned about yourself through this so far?
Well, what I have learned is going to sound strange. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So I am not that guy who's like, reading books and playing games, and I am working. I'm doing what I did before this happened.
Uh-huh.
I'm like constantly working and thinking. If one more person says, "Oh, out of a crisis comes an opportunity," I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm just trying to hold together the business."
Yeah.
But feeling this guilt about looking for the opportunity, right? Very entrepreneurial, very exciting. But so let's get back to, I really am doing what I did before. And I know that's not everybody, but I happen to be in this situation of running an agency with lots of people, and thinking through lots of things and lots of clients. And so honestly, I have noticed that I need to do a better job of taking a breath. And I knew that before this all happened, and now I really know it.
Yeah.
I really, really know it. I absolutely have to do that.
What do you think, if you were mentoring people, which you do, whether it's direct or indirect, people who are listening who are really scared, who don't have the experience you do, like I also, like you, went through the 2008 recession and survived it and then thrived. And then 9/11, same thing. And I want to stress that too. Coming out of it ended up thriving, you know? And so what would you recommend, you know, younger people who haven't ever been through this before and are just absolutely terrified out of their minds? You know, who knows, maybe they have some number of months of finances left. Can you recommend anything that they should think about?
Well, a couple very common sense things, right? Is that you should do the best you can, right? So you have to logically think through things like, can I pay my rent? Can I pay my insurance? Can I pay my car insurance? Like all the basic things that you do at home when you decide you want to buy a house. Let's use that as an example. I want to buy a house. I don't know if I can afford it. And you suddenly figure everything out. And eventually everything works out. I think that's what's going on here, that you should do the best you can with what you have. And some of it is going to feel really terrifying, but it will work itself out. I really believe that. It will work itself out. If you're smart about it, you think about it, you're honest about it, you ask people for help. Those are the things that I did in '08, and I did them after 9/11. I went to clients and said, look, I'm not, if we keep at this pace, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, maintain my business. And they made suggestions. So it's like going to mentors, going to people who are successful, asking them for advice, and planning for the other side. So let's go back to the plan B. That's so critical.
Sure. I was going to go there. Yes.
So if you are getting married this fall, I would say to you, fantastic. But what's your alternative? What is your alternative? Because I'm sure you've already called the hotel and they are telling you that they're going to open in June and that it'll be all set for fall. I think that's great. Very aspirational. I hope it happens. But what if it doesn't? So this is the moment to think about that and come up with a plan. So I have this is a true story. I have a staffer who was supposed to get married in May, canceled her wedding. And when she went to do it, she realized that it was just going to be so expensive to cancel that she wasn't sure she was going to be able to have the wedding that she dreamed of having, right? She's going to have a smaller wedding, et cetera, et cetera. She just told me yesterday that her father's like, I want my only daughter to have the wedding that she wants. So we're going to do this all next May, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I said? I said, congratulations. I want to get on the phone with you and review all those contracts before you sign them for next May. But why? Because I just wanted to make sure everybody was protected and that there was a plan B.
That's right.
Right? So we're supposed to have a vaccine in a year from April. So that's next April.
Right.
But it could be 18 months. So that could be June.
My God. Yeah.
And so let's just be thoughtful about this. And so getting back to I'm not trying to scare people. I'm trying to say, just think about it, so you don't keep repeating this. Like, you don't want it to be Groundhog Day.
That's right.
So you just want to think about it. You just want to think about it and be honest about it.
And that's something that's never going to change is now we're going to everyone's going to be building in a plan B for the rest of our careers now.
Well, I'm curious about that, Andy. I think once we get through this, life will go back to normal, and sure, the lawyers will get a hold of our contracts and the clients' contracts and all of that. But I don't necessarily think, or I hope that 2 years from now, we're not having conversations about a plan B, but you might be right, but I hope not.
Well, and, as we get ready to wrap up, I earlier you mentioned, I loved hearing you say you feel that the event industry essentially is going to just bounce right back, do you feel that what changes do you think are going to occur? I wonder what the event industry is going to look like, during the recovery and then after we've recovered. Have you thought about?
Oh, yeah, of course. And when I say bounce right back, look, I don't think that 500 people are going to go running into a ballroom in July or August if suddenly, our social distancing is lifted. That's not going to happen. So I think travel, hotels, restaurants, and events are really going to, we got to take a deep breath, because it's all about gathering and coming together. And so there are going to I think we're going to be the longest out there, because people are eventually all going to come back together, but that's not going to be immediate. So I do think most likely we're going to have smaller gatherings, and so people are going to have to decide if they want to have a smaller gathering. What I mean is, if they were getting together with 200 people, now they have to cut their list to 100, maybe. And then of all the safety things that have to come along with it, like we can't open the country without testing, masks, gloves,
That's right.
Pharrell, and we can't do it, right? So will we have all those things at events in the future? Absolutely. I believe we will.
Interesting.
To the degree that we need them, and to the degree that we need to make each other feel safe. But right now, we need all those things just to get the world going again, right? So a year from now, we certainly will be thinking about this, but hopefully, God willing, we'll have an amazing vaccine. We'll have amazing treatments, for the most vulnerable, and we'll move forward. But I do think in the hospitality business, everybody's going to have to just brace themselves for a long year.
I'm also wondering, just before we go here, you've probably heard this, seen it, a lot of celebrity artists, for example, a lot of different people, genres, but musicians are giving these kind of little concerts from their homes, and they don't have the makeup and the hair people and,
right.
and the fancy backdrop. And, a lot of them just even dress casually. I'm wondering if that's going to start a new trend of this more down to earth way of doing things. And I wonder how that might seep its way into the event industry.
Honestly, I think you're correct that that's going to happen. But I think for your daughter's wedding in the future, you are going to treat getting dressed up as a true special occasion and not something you do every single week.
That's right.
That's where I think there's going to be an appreciation that this is an important moment, and therefore I'm going to honor that moment. And so I be curious about the idea that people won't dress up, but I do think that people are going to relax a lot more and not be as concerned about the way they look, the way they dress, how often they wash their hair. I really do. I mean, I think for our environment, I hope that's true.
Oh, yeah.
But I think what comes out of that is your true self, and your inner beauty comes out because it's just who you are, right? And what you have time to do in that day. Andy, I'll finish my last thought with you is I have this great book of quotes, and you open the book and there's a quote inside, but one that I land on a lot, it's very odd, is if you lost everyone and everything in your life and then got it all back again, what would you do?
Wow.
So that's the moment we're in right now. Right? So you have to think about it. You have to think about it in everything that you do. Like, what would you do? And I'm certain that I'm going to have these conversations with my clients in the future. But what's really important to them, what do they value? What kind of experience do they truly want to have that's uniquely theirs? And that's the celebration of the future.
Well, thank you so much, Bryan, for getting on. I really appreciate and you just being so direct and talking about how you're feeling, how things are going. And I love how you ended. I want to stay on that because I do think that I'm not going to say opportunity. I won't use that word. I'll say this, though. I feel so much gratitude. I feel so grateful for the little things now, and I think I totally agree with you. When we start to come out of this, I mean, there's going to be deeper levels of meaning to gatherings, to getting together. So thanks a lot.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Bryan Rafanelli. Be sure to check out his website at rafanellievents.com. Again, rafanellievents.com. His social media handles are the same. And be sure to check out the show notes and our website at theweddingbiz.com. And if you enjoyed this, and I'm sure you did, there was so much valuable information, especially to help our colleagues in the industry, please share it. Please definitely share this episode with all your colleagues in the industry. And if you can give a great review, that would be great. And also, lastly, once again, to support the show, which I would appreciate very much, please go to theweddingbiz.com/Patreon. That's theweddingbiz.com/Patreon, Patreon, so that you can sign up. There's also a link in the show notes. I thank you so much for doing that, and we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.